Hi folks, hope you're doing well. Blake here and I'm back with another weekly YouTube upload. Now in the past I've spoken about easy guitar songs that you can play in the key of C. So that video looks like this. I'll put a link in the cards above and also in the description that you can check out for that. And it did quite well, so I thought I'd make another video where I talk about more easy guitar songs, this time in the key of G. So the G key is a little bit more complicated than C. We can play almost every chord in open positions apart from one, that's the B minor. And so it's worth remembering what chords are in the key of G major. But as a quick reminder, in G major we have the following chords: G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major and E minor. There is a seventh one as well. We don't have to worry about that yet. It's an F sharp minor flat 5, but you don't hear it very often. It's quite complicated to play, especially for beginners, so we're going to miss that out for the moment. But using those 6 chords we can play a lot of different popular songs, and here are 5 that I find quite easy and hopefully you will too. I should mention of course that I'll put links to all of the tabs you need for these 5 songs in the description below, so as you're watching this be sure to have a click on the tab and hopefully it'll all make sense. Okay, so the first song we're going to go over is Budapest by George Ezra. Now Budapest goes between 3 chords. It's G major, where we put both our third and little finger on at the 3rd fret. We play all of the strings, and in terms of where our finger placement is, it's the 3rd fret on the bass E string, the 2nd fret on the A string, open D and G strings, and then the 3rd fret on the B and E high E strings. The next chord is a C major, so unless you're a complete beginner you'll probably know how to play an open C major chord. We don't play this bass E string, we play the 3rd fret of the A string, the 2nd fret of the D string, an open G, the 1st fret here of the B string and an open E. And then the last one we play is a D major, so we put our 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the high E string, our 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the B string and our 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the G string. We play these 3 highest strings and we also play the D string open. So there's the chords, but how does it go? Well, in the verse we cycle between this G major and C major chords, and there's a finger picking pattern that we use, which I'll show you in a moment, and it goes like this. So starting on the G major, what we do is we play the bass G note and then we play the 3 highest strings, so using our 1st finger, our middle finger and our 3rd finger. Okay, so then we hammer on this note here. So we play the bass G, the highest 3 strings, and then we play the A string and hammer on here, and then we play the highest 3 strings again. So we play that G pattern 8 times once the singing has come in. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you'll change on the word you. I'll demonstrate it in a moment. And we go to a C major, and now you play the bass note again. In this case it's the C on the A string, because remember when we're playing a C major chord we don't play this bass E string, so this is the lowest note. And then the 3 high strings again, but there's no hammer on here, so we just go 8 times and then we're back to our G pattern. So here's how that looks in the song. My house in Budapest, my hidden treasure chest, golden grand piano, my beautiful Castillo, you and that's where you change. I leave it all, my acres of land I have achieved. Must be hard for you to stop and believe, but for you, ooh, ooh, I leave it all. And then at this point, when we're going into the chorus, we bring D in, so we play the D chord, and again we're doing that same thing where we play the bass note. In this case it's the open D string, and then we're playing the 3 highest strings, so the same as we did for C. So we're going from D to C to G in the chorus, and when you're on G you can bring that pattern back. So give me just one reason why I can never make a change. Baby, if you owe me, all of this can go away. So the next song up is Brown Eyed Girl by Van Morrison. Now, the only reason it's maybe a slightly bit harder than the last one is just because of the little riff that comes at the beginning, which I'll show you in a moment. But it uses more or less the same chords, so G, C and D. And it also uses a D7 chord, which I'll show you just now. So to play a D7 chord, all we do is we go from our D chord here, and what we want to do is move this finger, so the one that's playing the 3rd fret on the B string, down 2 frets. But it's easier for us to rearrange our fingers, so rather than trying to move this over here, we're going to take our first finger and play the 1st fret of the B string, and we're going to put these 2 fingers back where they were, and now we've got a D7, and the notes we want to play are the open D string and then the same highest 3 strings. Okay, so for the strumming pattern you can use the very common down, down, up, up, down, as I've been over before, and we're going to use the chords G, C, G and D. And experiment, you can put different fingers down just to kind of lighten it up a bit as well. So if we're playing a D major, we can put our little finger on the 3rd fret of the high E string to play a D sus4. Okay, so that's the pattern for the verse, and it sounds like this. Hey, where do we go? Days when the rain came down in the hollow, playing a new game, running and laughing, hey, skipping and jumping, misty morning with our hearts thumping you. And then when we get to U, we change what chords we're playing. So we now play C major, D7, G major, and the last one I actually forgot to mention is an E minor. So to play an E minor, we just put our first finger on the 2nd fret of the A string and our 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the D string. And in the chorus you can kind of let them ring out. And then we're back into the verse. So here's what it sounds like with the chorus. Misty morning with all our hearts thumping you, a brown-eyed girl, you my brown-eyed girl. Okay, and the last part to mention is the sha-la-la-la-la-la bit where people sing along. So that's the middle 8 of the song, and it's basically just a D7 chord ringing out. So here's how it sounds in the song. You remember when we used to sing sha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Okay, the last part I'm just going to put on the screen, so please pause the video and feel free to go through it. I'll show it to you. It's just a little riff. Don't worry about it if it seems too complicated or you're not sure what to do with it. You can miss it out really and just play the chords without it, but it's what comes in at the very start of the song, and it sounds and looks like this. Okay, so next up we have Ring of Fire by the legendary Johnny Cash. And again, we only use 3 chords, much like Budapest. It's just G major, C major and D major. And what we want to introduce is kind of a strum where we're just hitting the strings but not making any noise. So what you want to do is go to strum the strings but also kind of hit your palm against them. So try that on a G chord until you've kind of got it comfortable, and that will give us the rhythm of a kind of country type song like we've got with Ring of Fire. Okay, so Ring of Fire uses that pattern and it goes between G and C, and then in the next line G and D. Love is a burning thing and it makes a fiery ring, bound by wild desire I fell into a ring of fire. And what you can do is, in the bar, when you're changing, you can actually put an extra change in, so it goes G, C, G, C, G, G, D, G, D, G. So what we're doing there on each chord is we're playing the bass note and then we're playing muted strings behind it. Okay, so that's the verse, and when we go into the chorus, it's D, C, G, D, C, G, and then D, G, D, G. And I'll show you with the song lyrics so it makes sense. So it goes like this. I fell into a burning ring of fire, went down, 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 and the flames went higher. Burns, 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 the ring of fire, the ring of fire. Okay, so next up we've got a classic love song, and that's Wonderful Tonight by Eric Clapton. Now the reason this is a little bit harder is not actually the chords, it's for the kind of more famous riff that goes on throughout the song, and again I'll show you that in a moment, and that kind of goes between each verse and after the chorus as well. And the song is mostly verses, it's got 1 chorus in but it's mostly verses, and it goes like this. Okay, so this is a slower song but we can still use the same down, down, up, up, down pattern that we saw earlier in Brown Eyed Girl. And the verse kind of chords go like this, so start with a G, then a D, C, D, and again. And then we go back to a G, but we're going to do what's called a kind of transitional or passing chord. So what we play is we go from our G and we want to go to an E minor. You can leave these fingers on if you want to, that makes it an E minor 7, or you can play it like this, whichever you think sounds better. But between them we're going to play what's called a D/F sharp. Don't worry too much at the moment about the name of it, but I'm just going to show you how to play it. So we go from our G major here, we take these 2 fingers off and we put our first finger on the 2nd fret of the bass E string and our 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the G string to get our D/F sharp chord. And that's why you might want to leave these 2 fingers on for the E minor to make an E minor 7, because it's very easy then to go from that to an E minor. So all together. And then to finish off the verse we go C, D, and then G. Okay, so in its entirety, here is a verse from Wonderful Tonight by Eric Clapton. It's late in the evening. She wonders what clothes to wear, puts on her makeup, brushes her long blonde hair. And then we transition to C and D. And then she asks me, and here's our passing sequence, do I look alright? And I say, my darling, you look wonderful tonight. Okay, so that goes maybe 3 times, I think, through the whole song. That's every verse. And kind of between the verses and the riffs, there's one bridge. It goes like this. It's kind of very similar to what we just saw in the sort of passing sequence. So it goes C, D, and then we have that same passing sequence of chords. And then it goes C, D, C, D, and G. I feel wonderful because I see the love light in your eyes, and the wonder of it all is you just don't realize how much I love you. Okay, so the last part of the song is probably the most famous part, and it's the little riff. Now, it's probably best played on electric guitar, but as I've got this one out, I'll show it you on acoustic, and I'll put the tab up again on the screen. So feel free to pause the video and learn it if you'd like to. If you don't want to, you can just play it with the chords, but with this song, particularly, kind of the riff is probably the most recognisable part. So feel free to have a go, and it goes like this. Okay, so thanks for sticking with me. This was 5 easy songs you can play in G, and here's the last one. It's the hardest of the bunch, but only because it sounds best when you play it in bar chords. So you need to know how to play E form. So taking the open E chord and moving it up into a bar chord, like here on G. And A form, so taking an A and moving it up into a bar, like here on C. And again, if you don't know how to do that, I've done these 2 videos and they're in the description below, so check that out if you're not sure what you're doing with bar chords. But we're going to use bar chords to play this next song, and that is Here I Go Again by Whitesnake. So the verse goes G, D, C, D. Now you can play this in open chords if you want. It's just because it's kind of a rock song, you want really bar chords. They sound quite powerful. Compare this G to this G. This one's much better suited for kind of folk songs, or maybe even this kind of G. But really what you want is this kind of heavy, powerful bar chord for when you're playing rock songs. So we're going to go G, D, C, I don't know where I'm going, but I sure know where I've been. Hanging on the promises, the songs of yesterday. And then we move to an A minor, so another bar chord, this time on the 5th fret of the E string. Made up my mind, D. I ain't wasting no more time. So A minor, D twice, and then before we go back to the start in a G or into the chorus, we do a quick C, D. So in the chorus we go back to a G, but rather than going G, D, C, we go G, C, D. And then a very quick transitional. C, the same A minor, D, so here's what the chorus sounds like. I made up my mind, I ain't wasting no more time. Here I go again on my own, walking down the only road I've ever known. Like a drifter I was born to walk alone. I made up my mind, I ain't wasting no more time. Here I go again. Okay, so that was my list of 5 easy songs you can play in the key of G. I hope it was helpful, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like and leave a comment to let me know what you'd like me to cover next. You can check out all of my content below or by clicking the little subscribe button, and if you press subscribe and the little notification bell, you'll get all of my content that I release, which is roughly a video a week and includes lessons like this, also things like musical vlogs, my own performances, gag reels and lots of other stuff. So make sure to check it out. Thanks very much, take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time.
It was no mistake, film night in with a nervous touch. Tried hard to share and didn't try hard enough. If I only knew I'd find in you